and perennials. Call today for up to 70% off pavers and stone. Visit drumlandscapesupply.com today.
The following is a paid program and does not necessarily reflect the views of WSIC.
Hello and welcome to Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much for hanging with us here, 4 o'clock hour. On a Thursday, you got 53 minutes, 25 seconds until we get to that 5 o'clock bell. I appreciate so much you spending that time with us here as we're talking about all things economic and financial. Got a lot on the plate today, folks. I feel like I say that every week. I guess maybe I don't need to say that every week anymore. I just feel like we're just getting it through the fire hose as far as all things that are transpiring in the economic universe. It kind of feels like we're getting new announcements very nearly every single day, and certainly going to be talking a lot about that and what's transpired here over the last week. But again, talking on all kinds of things. Some things we're going to look at in a positive light. Other things maybe a not so positive light. But you remember, as a previous listener to Dollars and Cents, that nothing that we're talking about here is intended as a specific recommendation for you. Meaning that even though we're going to be looking at, again, I'll tell you in advance, we're going to be looking at some things that aren't particularly positive, and I'm probably going to give you some subjective commentary that would indicate that I'm less than thrilled about either the particular company or about the particular policy, particular investment style. We're going to be talking about that here a little bit as well, and a couple of different things. Again, none of that is considered, from my end of things, to be a recommendation for you. Everybody's situation is unique. We strongly, strongly recommend that you reach out to your tax advisor, to your financial advisor, or if you'd like to reach out to us at North Main Financial Group. Love to hear from you. Love to chat about your particular situation, see if there are ways in which we might be able to be helpful to you. Online, you can find us at northmainfinancial.com. That's north like the direction, Main like the street, financial.com. Northmainfinancial.com. We have a contact page on there. Leave us an email address, phone number. Let us know the most preferred and desirable ways for us to contact you. Again, at northmainfinancial.com. You're also welcome to call us here in the studio. Now, can't promise you I'm going to get to your question. I'll tell you that in advance. We get a lot of email, a lot of text messages, a lot of calls during the week. We load up on the agenda here pretty quickly as we're formulating the show content. But definitely call in. Producer Reese is here. He'll make sure to get your information, make sure to get the content of your question, and make sure that if I can't get to it today, promise I'll get to it next week and make sure that we continue to make this show as relevant and helpful as we possibly can when we're talking about all things economic and financial. 844-STUDIO-4 is the number here in the studio. That's 844-788-3464. One more time, 844-788-3464 here in the studio. If you'd like to call in, if you have a particular question, I'm not your hot stock tip guy. I'm not. You know that. I mean, let me say it to you this way. If I'm the one giving you the hot stock tips, that's probably a clearest indication that you can get that you shouldn't do what I'm telling you. Not a good idea, and I don't do that. We don't do that from a planning process. We're definitely not trying to catch things or to guess what may be happening in a given day or week or month or frankly even year as far as those things are concerned. Ours is coming at it much more from a planning standpoint, trend analysis sort of thing. Is this something that we think is going to be more elongated in terms of this particular theme or style? And is that someplace where we want to be? So much more intentional. Not that we don't trade every day. We literally do. We're trading every day, but we're not day trading. I know it sounds like double speak there, but it's not that we're trading in and out of single positions in a given day. We're looking at, for any number of our clients, does this make sense for them? Is this an opportunity? Are they more aggressive? Are they more conservative? Is there a space in the investment universe where things have pulled back unnaturally? Have things moved ahead? Which is what we're going to be talking about later on in today's show. Have we moved ahead a little bit too quickly? I know I'm not going to be the guy that pricks the balloon, I promise you, but I am going to look a little bit askance to this very rapid bounce back appreciation that we've seen in some of our more aggressive names. That's a little bit of a teaser. I want you to hang around for the later part of the show. But let's get into some specific companies here. I'm going to start with one that, if you don't know the company, chances are, if you follow anything in the investment universe, you probably have heard of this guy's name. And he has, certainly in this generation, I would say it's even 2 generations at this point, especially for how long he has been just one of the iconic figures in the investment universe. that it definitely bears it bears a mention, and it bears whether you like him or not, whether you like his stock or not, whether you like his company or not. That's all set aside here for a moment, because certainly in terms of being influential in the investment business, and certainly for the ways in which he has made incredible money for his shareholders, definitely have to talk about him, and that's Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha, he's sometimes called, because he lives in Omaha, Nebraska. Not exactly the hotbed if you're looking at it from traditional financial hubs, if you will. Usually we're looking at New York or Chicago or LA kind of thing. No, he's Omaha, Nebraska. His company, the company that where he is the, I believe, still the single. Yes, he is actually still the single largest shareholder. Berkshire Hathaway, publicly traded company, ticker symbol Barry Roger Kelly. There are two share classes. There's an A alpha class and there's a B beta class in there. So you can own them in a couple of different ways, different share prices, different voting rights, without getting too granular inside of that. But not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stock or the bonds. But he announced during the annual meeting for Berkshire Hathaway shareholders that he was going to be stepping back as the chairman of Berkshire Hathaway. Now, that's momentous. It's momentous for a number of reasons. I mean, one, he's still alive. I mean, I didn't think there was much of a chance that he was going to step away while he was still living. Warren Buffett, 94 years old, 94, and I listened to the recording of the shareholder meeting, or the parts that were made public rather, and I mean, he's 4.5 hours. For 4.5 hours, he answered shareholder questions. I don't think they were prompted in advance either. At least it didn't appear that they were prompted in advance. I mean, 4.5 hours. I mean, I hope I have that energy at 94. I hope I make it to 94, let alone have that energy. But he announced, and I think somewhat surprising, not only to shareholders, but I think even to the board, that he would be stepping back and he would be making a recommendation for the person who would succeed him as the chief executive officer for Berkshire Hathaway. If you're not familiar with Berkshire Hathaway, the best way I can describe them is as a conglomerate, meaning that they own, as a company, as a publicly traded company, they own a whole collection of businesses, and in all different shapes, sizes, and varieties of industry. I mean, everything from insurance, specifically property and casualty and life insurance companies, and then all the way to what would be let's call it locomotive engines. That's probably, or at least the components that go into locomotive engines. Pretty much everything in between that they own. I mean, they own airplane companies. They own cleaning companies. They own a lot of stuff. Meaning companies that make cleaners, rather, or industrial cleaners. So a very diverse organization. Here's one of the big components that stood out for me when I was just looking through the annual report for Berkshire Hathaway. Pretty amazing. Now, this is obviously looking in the rearview mirror, but over the course of Warren Buffett's time at Berkshire Hathaway, his average annual return was very nearly 20% a year. Holy smokes. Now, that's looking backwards. That's not an indication, as you know, past performance, not an indication of future results. You know, that's kind of the boilerplate language that we need to say there. So no indication about what that will mean for the stock going forward. But amazing, an amazing run. 60 years of hammering away there, and just an incredible run. So it definitely deserves the mention, definitely deserves us talking about him here, especially when we're talking about all things financial and economic in the universe, as he has been one of the iconic figures. Well, we're going to take a moment here to catch our breath here on Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial. Hang with us as we come back for the second quarter here on WSIC.
Make no mistake.
Did you say steak?
We'll be back to talk more finances and food on Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial on WSIC. Local starts here.
Well, finally, some drier weather coming back around Lake Norman, and we're going to warm things up as we finish off the work week 2. Warm and humid. Temperatures climb into the mid-80s for the afternoon. We'll drop back into the upper 60s overnight. For your Friday, we'll make a run at 90 degrees for the afternoon. You factor in that humidity. Whew. Toasty day of weather for late spring and early summer. Mainly staying dry and warm into the weekend. That's your forecast. The WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
The WSIC app is available now wherever you get your apps, featuring local deals from great local businesses like Nina's Boutique.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Langtree Live in Mooresville returns for Week 3 on Thursday night with the Peyton Pelican Band performing at 7 p.m. Grab your lawn chairs and enjoy this free outdoor concert series off Exit 31 from I-77. Bin 110 in Cornelius offers up 3 nights of live music. Thursday features Ryan Winters. On Friday, Feathered Roots starts your weekend. And on Saturday, Save July makes their debut. Don't miss live music at Bin 110 in Cornelius this weekend. 2 music performances are ready for you to enjoy on Friday night in downtown Statesville. At 7 p.m., William Kiley Smith kicks things off at the Wine Maestro. At 8 p.m., Wendy Wooten takes the stage at Delaney's Sports Bar. 2 musicians are ready to entertain you Friday night in downtown Statesville. The 500 Club presents live music on Saturday night with a performance by Andy Buckner. Andy combines honky-tonk, party anthems, and heartache healers for a memorable country performance. Golfing, food, beverages, and entertainment are all at the 500 Club in Statesville this weekend. The countdown is on for NASCAR's big Memorial Day showdown at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Friday, May 23rd features an ARCA and Truck Series doubleheader. Saturday, May 24th, the Xfinity Series competes in the BetMGM 300. Sunday, May 25th is NASCAR's longest race, the Coca-Cola 600. Listen to the Home Ad Show for your chance to win tickets to the 600. Visit Harrison's in Mooresville to register for a VIP package, and head to charlottemotorspeedway.com to purchase tickets and for camping information. NASCAR is back at Charlotte Motor Speedway on Memorial Day weekend. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
From market trends to retirement plans, Joshua Dobi has you covered. We're back with more Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial on WSIC. Local starts here.
Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much for hanging with us here. Second quarter of today's show, Football Reference. And we talk sports on here. I know it's dollars and cents. So we got to talk about financial and economic, and I love doing that. But we got to keep some things a little bit anecdotal as well. I mean, how many charts do you want me to read for you here? I mean, even I. Well, that's not really true. I actually really enjoy that kind of stuff. But I understand that not everybody, right, is just wanting to go through voluminous amounts of data or talking necessarily about other kinds of charting mechanisms, technical measures, or things of that nature. Even from a fundamental standpoint, that can get a little bleary-eyed. And we're going to be talking plenty of company news here over the course of today's show. But we also talk some anecdotal things as well. We talk football around here as well. And primarily, A, we love football here. But B, we also, that's another word that begins with F, just like finances, right? So we talk finances, we talk football, and we talk about another word that begins with the letter F, and that's food. That's exactly what you were thinking. Don't tell me otherwise. So we do that. We're going to be talking food a little bit later on as well. Got some interesting collaborations that we came across the timeline here in the last week as well. But now with football, it's a little bit of a quiet season right now. We just got through the hoopla of the draft process and the drama and all that goes along with that. And there are thoughts on all sides, but people pleased with draft results, not pleased with draft results. Which is it's just very interesting to me because when you look at the success factor of folks in the draft, yes, are your number one draft picks or first round draft picks generally, probability wise, going to have a higher degree of success? Absolutely, but it's not a given. I mean, there are plenty of first round draft pick and certainly number one draft pick busts out there. I mean, more than we can count. And so it's not just true that just because, in the first round or you were the number one draft pick, that you're automatically going to be number one. But I got to shift a little bit out of football to go to a sport that does not begin with the letter F, and that's basketball, and primarily because it was the lottery draft process for the NBA. And when I'm saying the lottery draft, so the lottery draft is where the teams that haven't done as well, right, they have the poorest records in the league, have opportunity to literally through a lottery process determine who's going to get the first pick in the lottery. So before the actual draft itself. And this year, I mean, it really is. It's really the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. So if you watch college basketball at all, or you're familiar with basketball, Cooper Flag, freshman, now I guess technically a sophomore, at Duke University, number one player in the country, the college player of the year, all that good kind of stuff. Dominant player. Gosh, he's only 18 years old too, and it seems to be from the so-called pundits that he's the foregone conclusion to be the number one pick. Well, very interesting. Actually, our Hornets, that's why I'm bringing it up as well. Our Hornets were actually in a probability scenario, had a higher probability that they were going to be one of the ones because of the weightedness of the lottery process, that they're going to be one of the ones who were going to be possibly be selected by a random process to have the number one pick. Boy, it would have been nice to have Cooper Flag. No doubt about it. Does not appear like that's going to be the case. The Dallas Mavericks, who had a 1.8% chance of being, I got to bring the numbers into it, right? Got to bring the financials into it as well here. That 1.8% chance of being the ones selected for the number one draft, the ball came up, meaning that when they pulled the ball out of the bowl, theirs were the one that came up. Amazing. I mean, because they also traded away their number one player, Luka. They traded him to the LA Lakers earlier this year, and now they're in line to get the number one player in the land. Now, there are lots of folks who are moaning about conspiracy theory. I don't know. I'm not going to get into that part of things. I don't know. And at a pretty high level, I don't think that it matters relative to what we're talking about here. It is about money, and it is certainly about money. He's going to command a monstrous contract as he begins his NBA playing days, Cooper Flag, that is. And it looks like the Dallas Mavericks are going to be the ones who are going to be able to pick him up. All right, let's keep going. So we're talking a little bit of sports here. Oh, by the way, before we skip sports, because this is important, I'd also like to say that we are now, as of this moment, we are exactly 1 week closer to the start of NFL training camp and of practice for our college football teams. 1 week exactly. In addition to that, we continue as the Carolina Panthers to be in the exact same space from a probability standpoint to win the Super Bowl. Don't tell me about who has what players at this point. Everybody right now has a 0-0 record. Everybody. So that, again, numerically, we are in exactly the same space with exactly the same possibilities to win the Super Bowl at this point as everybody else. Never lose faith, Carolina fans. We're here for the long haul. All right, let's keep going here. Going to talk companies a little bit. This one, tough to think of too many more brand recognized names than the one I'm going to mention next. And this is also one that I track fairly closely because of indications about consumer sentiment insofar as how they spend. And it's in the retail space. If I'm talking retail and I'm talking consumers, you almost have to, if not make them the conversation, then certainly a significant part of the conversation, and that is Walmart. Walmart, ticker symbol William Mary Tom, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the debt or the equity in the company. Came out with earnings and also some reflection on pricing. And this was probably, actually, I would say this was definitely, they did not come out with earnings. They came out with sales numbers and then some indication about pricing here going into the summer. The sales numbers, literally as of a couple of weeks ago, quite strong. Actually, for a company the size of Walmart, to hear about the same store sales numbers, meaning stores that have been open longer than a year, to hear about their sales numbers, quite strong, up a little over 1% year over year, about 1.5% year over year. That's a lot for a company the size of Walmart, the largest retailer in the country by a country mile. No pun intended there. That they are just huge. It's estimated that approximately 90% of folks who buy things of any shape, size, and variety in this country at some point during the year are going to buy something from Walmart. 90%? Are you kidding me? 9 out of 10 people? I'll tell you what, that's a market. I mean, that's an amazing capture of market share that Walmart has, and they are very good at it, and they continue to be very, very strong. And again, some encouraging numbers. Now, one of the primary reasons why I'm bringing that up is you hear us talk about the consumer constantly here on Dollars and Cents. And the reason for that is the consumer, 2/3 to three-quarters of our overall economy, meaning as we spend, so the economy goes. So it's very, very important when you have something as, let's call it near universal as Walmart in terms of the shopping, the retail experience for everyday common goods, all the way up to tires on your car, that it's important to see what they see from a sales standpoint to understand, at least in part, one variable in the algorithm about where the consumer is. Walmart's certainly very important in that equation. Good to see that they see not only the strong sales figures here up through April, but also they did not change their guidance, which I thought was very interesting, especially in relationship to what I'm going to say next. They very quickly said after they're not changing their earnings guidance, meaning they expect to maintain the same margins, top line, bottom line revenues that they had projected earlier. They also said that come into the summer, they're going to be raising some prices. Now, that's big when it comes to Walmart. Walmart is known in many ways as being that low cost offering or lower cost offering because of their size. They're simply able to do it on scale. They're able to buy 1,000,000 of something when other retailers are buying 1,000 of something. And so, because of that, they're able to shrink their cost that they buy, and obviously, in keeping margins under wraps, then able to offer it at a much lower cost to the consumer. That's a big deal. So when they're saying that they're going to be raising prices in the summer, and they're saying it is due to the effects of some of the tariffs that they're anticipating may be in place during that time, folks, that's a big deal because directly after that, when I heard that, then directly I'm thinking, okay, what does that mean for the consumer? How will that change buying patterns? Will they shift to different brand names? We talked about that last week, more store brand names or more generic brand names. Will they also maybe pull back altogether, especially on things which are not the vitals and the essentials relative to the buying experience? We're going to be watching that very closely. Again, there's an anticipation that prices are going to rise. This is coming directly from the C-suite at Walmart, that prices are going to rise because of the anticipation of higher expenses from tariffs. It hasn't happened in scale at this point. There are definitely some manufacturers and definitely some wholesalers who are raising prices preemptively, definitely seeing that in any number of areas. And I'm talking about everything from paper towels to automobiles, where we're seeing those kinds of things happening. But Walmart was pretty quick to say that they're anticipating it at this point, really just telling the market in advance, so there isn't a shock element probably if the prices do rise on some things that are out there. And they were talking about it across the board. Again, everything from T-shirts to tomatoes, they were talking about that. So we're going to watch that very closely. Going to be a very big indication about, again, where the consumer is and about what that means as far as the market is concerned. And we'll certainly keep track of that and bring that to you. One other big company here, lots of news in my end of the world here before we take the halftime break. And that's United Healthcare. Now, you may not be familiar with United Healthcare unless you have them maybe for health insurance, those kinds of things. Publicly traded company, ticker symbol Umbrella Nancy Henry, UNH, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stock. Boy, has their stock been pummeled, though. And they have had an awful time as a company. And now, although they have expressly denied it, there's a story in the Wall Street Journal right now that says that they are going to be under indictment from the Department of Justice for Medicare fraud. Folks, that'll be big. That'll be big for UNH if that's the case. Now, they have expressly come out and denied that that's the case at this point. I hope they're right. This is subjective now. I hope they're correct, that there's not something that they're hiding here, because the stock has already been pummeled here over the last several days, down over 30% this week in terms of market movement. Their CEO left very abruptly. And that was before this news of the possibility of an indictment for Medicare fraud came out. Their CEO left very abruptly. He was a fill-in person as well. Now we're going to have an old CEO who's going to be filling in again to the space and on an interim kind of basis. And again, shareholders of UNH. UNH is in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. This is a very widely held stock, very widely held entity. So this is not some, kind of on the periphery or stock that doesn't get traded very much. Very large company, the largest provider of Medicare supplemental policies in the country, one of the largest providers of health insurance overall, hospital management. I mean, they do it all. They're a huge company. We're going to wait and see. It's going to be interesting to see. So tough times for UNH, and especially for UNH shareholders. All right, folks, hang with us. We're going to hear from our sponsors for a few seconds. Coming back in a moment here on Dollars and Cents on WSIC.
Make no mistake.
Did you say steak?
We'll be back to talk more finances and food on Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial on WSIC. Local starts here.
Well, finally, some drier weather coming back around Lake Norman, and we're going to warm things up as we finish off the work week 2. Warm and humid. Temperatures climb into the mid-80s for the afternoon. We'll drop back into the upper 60s overnight. For your Friday, we'll make a run at 90 degrees for the afternoon. You factor in that humidity. Whew. Toasty day of weather for late spring and early summer. Mainly staying dry and warm into the weekend. That's your forecast. The WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Hi, This is Bob McIntosh with the McIntosh Law Firm in Davidson. Since 1997, we have been committed to providing our clients with competent, caring, and experienced legal services. Learn more at McIntoshLawFirm.com.
If you need home medical equipment, call Lowry Drug in Statesville. We have everything you need in stock, including portable oxygen concentrators, CPAPs, masks, lift chairs, wheelchairs, scooters, hospital beds, supplies, and anything else you need. Get it when you need it. Check out LowryDrug.com or call 704-873-2247. Lowry Drug, your hometown source since 1959, across from Iredell Memorial Hospital. We are worth the drive. Come see us.
Welcome home to Comfort. Family-owned, community-focused, Horn Heating and Air Conditioning is proud to have served our community for over 40 years. We treat you as family because you are family. Your comfort is our business. Visit hornhvac.com today.
Race fans, start your engines. Head to Harrison's in Mooresville and register to choose your race. Will you win tickets to the Coca-Cola 600 with pre-race passes, the BetMGM 300, or the NC Education Lottery 200? 3 winners, first place picks first. Register by May 15th. Winners announced live on the Home Ad Show. Head on over to Harrison's, your local leader in Carhartt, Ariat, and Western wear, and tune in every Sunday to WSIC, Lake Norman's home for NASCAR.
Hi, this is Susan. I'm excited to let you know that Lake Mountain Coffee is now available for private events. Our beautiful historic building with its 360-degree mezzanine has hosted many private parties, catered diners, and even an actual wedding. Please contact Andy at 704-252-1886 for more information. Thank you so much.
With 5 area locations, Desco is your go-to resource for electrical supplies. Albemarle, Mooresville, Salisbury, Statesville, and Lexington. No matter where the job takes you, you're sure to be close to a Desco. Shop now at DescoInc.com.
Yeehaw for rodeo season at Harrison's, the home of work, western, and wow. Whether you compete or cheer from the stands, Harrison has the looks to help you wow the crowd. Get western classics and the latest styles from Harriet, Cinch, Rock and Roll Denim, and Wrangler. Find us in Mooresville.
Have but one objective.
Honey, can you turn that down?
Ladies,
Honey, can you turn it down?
ever feel like your house is shaking every time your husband watches TV?
What?
Honey, can you turn it down?
That's not surround sound. That's hearing loss. Beltone in Mooresville and Cornelius can help. With expert hearing tests and top-quality hearing aids, you can finally enjoy your TV without shaking the whole neighborhood. Visit nchearing.com to schedule your free hearing test today. That's nchearing.com.
Take your life by the reins and let the horses at Willow Equine heal and empower you. Located in Mooresville, our services help with trauma, anxiety, depression, and addiction. Love life again. Visit willowequine.com today.
24/7 worldwide, non-stop.
WSIC.
Local starts here.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. CVS Health is bidding to buy stores and patient data from Rite Aid that's going out of business. According to the CEO of Rite Aid, CVS, which is the largest drug chain in the country, has put in a bid for a significant number of stores in Washington, Oregon, and Idaho, as well as patient prescription information. The additional stores would broaden CVS's reach in a part of the country where it has a smaller presence per capita than in other regions. United Health Group is seeing its shares tumble today. The company is trying to recover from the death of its top insurance executive, and now we're hearing the health insurer is under criminal investigation for possible Medicare fraud. According to the Wall Street Journal, the Justice Department has been looking into the company's Medicare Advantage business. Heading toward the close, stocks are mixed. The Dow is up 0.6, the S&P has gained 0.25%, while the Nasdaq has lost 0.5%. I'm Nancy Lyons, Bloomberg Radio.
Home of the best talk.
WSIC. Local starts here.
From market trends to retirement plans, Joshua Dobi has you covered. We're back with more Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial on WSIC. Local starts here.
Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much for hanging with us here. Second half of today's show. I know, first half just blew by. That's what happens. I mean, it's because we make it fun, right? At least I hope we make it fun. as you're listening to what we're talking about here. Economic things, financial things, talking companies, markets, all those kinds of things are blowing around us. But we also make some things anecdotal. We're going to talk some sports here as well. We also talk food. And you may say, well, what is food? Well, food's kind of a big deal. I certainly bring up the companies that are publicly traded. We're going to be doing that here in a moment when we're talking about food. But we also try to make it a little bit fun and also enjoyable as you're listening to it. Because, like I said, I'm more than happy to drone on about alpha quotients and beta and all that good kind of stuff. I might just bore you to tears. It might. I want you to hang around. All right, we're talking about important stuff here. Probably things that are relevant to your portfolio and to your 401ks and to your investments. And so we certainly hope so. That's why we do it. Let's get a little bit anecdotal here for a minute. So I'm going to be talking about we're going to talk about charcoal. Now you may be looking at charcoal. So who has charcoal anymore? There are a lot of people that still have charcoal. There are a lot of people who say that they will never use the more popular gas-related propane gas kind of grills, but they will only use either wood or charcoal. So there are tons of folks that still use it. Probably one of the most, certainly one of the most more recognizable names that's out there when it comes to charcoal is Kingsford, red, white, and blue bag. Kingsford, by the way, is owned by Clorox Company. Clorox, publicly traded, ticker symbol Charlie Larry X-ray. Not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stock the stock or the debt. But Kingsford, they are coming out because we're getting into the grill season, right? Things warm up. We get the grill out. It's just nice to be outside. Sometimes folks like to have a cold beverage with it. Sometimes, and they maybe a beer, and maybe when they're drinking their beer, they may add some of the beer to the fire process to, I don't know, to give it maybe a beer flavor. It could be. I don't know. Can't say that I haven't done that myself, although I wasn't really sure of what the effect will be. Well, apparently Kingsford got word of this kind of trend that's out there, and now they're coming out with, you know where I'm going with this? They're coming out with Miller Lite beer infused charcoal. So now you don't have to pour your beer anymore on the charcoal briquettes in order to get that beer flavor. Miller Lite, by the way, Miller Lite owned by Molson Coors. Not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold Molson Coors as well. Miller Lite infused charcoal briquettes. So if you are one who enjoys that Miller Lite flavor in not only your charcoal, but probably you're going to get some level of flavor, I would think, of that in what you're cooking. What an opportunity. Kudos to you, Kingsford. You're looking at the trend. You're making it happen. That's one of those collaborations. As I was looking, I was like, okay, that actually, I could see that makes sense. Now, we got other ones. We're going to talk about another one here a little bit later on. I don't really see the correlation, with this particular one. That's going to be a little bit later on. But with Kingsford and Miller Lite, yeah, I think that can work. So anyhow, but let's keep going here. Going to be talking now here for a few moments about cryptocurrency. Now, I have to tell you, and this is for all of my compliance folks who I know will be listening to the recording of this broadcast. Cryptocurrency is not a securitized asset. That includes Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all of them. That they are not securitized assets, and as such, I don't speak about them except in the context of how they're used inside of securitized instruments. All right, does that sound like a 10-cent phrase? What that really means is I'm looking at cryptocurrency from my end of the world insofar as they are used inside of exchange-traded funds registered with the SEC or in futures contracts, again, also which are registered with the SEC. So that's the context in which I'm looking at them here. But I'm looking actually at a company as we're talking about cryptocurrency, primarily because of some news that came out this week, which was mostly anticipated. I gotta say this wasn't a surprise, at least not in my end of the universe. But still, it was not known that this was going to happen at this time, but it was anticipated that it would happen at some point. I'm looking at Coinbase. Coinbase is a clearing firm and also a custodian for cryptocurrency, publicly traded company, Charlie Oscar Indian Nancy, COIN, very nice ticker symbol, by the way. So Coinbase, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stock or the debt inside of that company. It was announced that the S&P 500 index will be adding them to the list of 500. One falls out, Coinbase comes in, they're going to be added to the S&P 500 index. Folks, that's a big deal. That's a very big deal. S&P 500 index, very, very ubiquitous in my end of the universe in terms of how it's used, how it's quoted, and now we're going to have who is a custodian and transaction chassis for cryptocurrency, now a part of the S&P 500 index. Very, very big deal. Stock shot up on the news, primarily because there are a significant number of entities when you're talking about the S&P 500 index that have to include them, meaning the S&P 500 index or an S&P 500 index fund or a S&P 500 index exchange traded fund. They have to hold them as part of their holdings inside of the portfolio. I'm looking most especially at nonprofit organizations, at charitable entities, foundations that often have that as part of their investment policy statement, that they have to include the S&P 500 or S&P 500 index, or they have to hold a fund that mirrors it. So it's a big deal, meaning there's going to be buying intensity for Coinbase because of their inclusion into the S&P 500 index, and I think that's why the stock went up. So that's a momentous occasion. I think that's worth noting it here, whether you like cryptocurrency, you don't like cryptocurrency, whether you own it, you don't own it, whatever your feelings are, there seem to be some pretty significant division of sentiment when it comes to cryptocurrency. And so this is not looking at it whether it's right for you or right to own, but really as just a noting a momentous occasion. Coinbase is going to be included in the S&P 500 index, and that's going to be interesting to see what that means for other cryptocurrency-related funds, what that means for cryptocurrency overall. Does that begin to delineate at all between more of Bitcoin and the other cryptocurrencies, which, by the way, just talking about Bitcoin, again, Bitcoin not a securitized asset, and so cannot buy, sell, or trade Bitcoin directly inside of a standard brokerage account or SEC-managed account. But there are plenty of folks who own it in places like Coinbase and other wallet-style holdings that they have. Very interesting to see that Bitcoin has returned pricing-wise up above $100,000 a full coin. And because they had dipped about 30%, got down in the 70,000 range end of things, and now have bounced all the way back here recently. Very, very interesting to see that. I think it's important because of their place in the market, also relative to the news about Coinbase here as well. Going to be interesting to see what happens next. All right, let's keep going. So we talked about Miller Lite infused charcoal. We talked about cryptocurrency. What should we talk about next when you're looking at things? All right. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, let's talk about sneakers. You got to talk about sneakers. You say, why are we talking? What does that have to do with irrelevant to cryptocurrency and Miller Lite or beer infused charcoal? Well, nothing at all, except that it involves a publicly traded company or two. Let's talk about big merger news today. Dick's Sporting Goods. So Dick's Sporting Goods, ticker symbol David Kelly Sam. Not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stock or the debt inside of that. Dick's Sporting Goods announcing that they're going to be acquiring Foot Locker. Now, if you're my age, Foot Locker was an omnipresent store in just about every shopping mall, interior, enclosed shopping mall in my experience. Meaning, if you're going to the mall, the chances were very, very good that you were going to see a Foot Locker in there. They were the place to get fancy athletic shoes, cleats, sports cleats, and all things, let's call it sneaker related. They were definitely the place to go for that. They've run into some challenging times here over the last several years. I would say even more than 10 years from a company standpoint. And they've flirted with several different ideas in terms of how they should manage their business ongoing. By the way, ticker symbol for Foot Locker, Frank Larry, FL, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stock or the bonds, which, by the way, sidebar, the announced price that Dick's is paying for Foot Locker, a 90% premium. So the stock shot up over 85% today. Amazing move in a given day. Huge premium. That's relatively unusual in this day and age that you would see that kind of premium offered. But $24 a share, and that's 90% over the current price on it. So shot up about 85% in one day. Hope you owned that Foot Locker stock here a couple of days ago and held on to it because this would be a good time to have it. All right, folks, we're going to take a moment to get into the third quarter here. Coming back in a moment here on WSIC.
Make no mistake.
Did you say steak?
We'll be back to talk more finances and food on Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial on WSIC. Local starts here.
Well, finally, some drier weather coming back around Lake Norman, and we're going to warm things up as we finish off the work week 2. Warm and humid. Temperatures climb into the mid-80s for the afternoon. We'll drop back into the upper 60s overnight. For your Friday, we'll make a run at 90 degrees for the afternoon. You factor in that humidity. Whew, that'll be a toasty day of weather for late spring and early summer. Mainly staying dry and warm into the weekend. That's your forecast. The WSIC Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here's your WSIC community calendar. Langtree Live in Mooresville returns for week 3 on Thursday night with the Peyton Pelican Band performing at 7 p.m. Grab your lawn chairs and enjoy this free outdoor concert series off Exit 31 from I-77. Bin 110 in Cornelius offers up 3 nights of live music. Thursday features Ryan Winters. On Friday, Feathered Roots starts your weekend. And on Saturday, Save July makes their debut. Don't miss live music at Bin 110 in Cornelius this weekend. 2 music performances are ready for you to enjoy on Friday night in downtown Statesville. At 7 p.m., William Kiley Smith kicks things off at the Wine Maestro. At 8 p.m., Wendy Wooten takes the stage at Delaney's Sports Bar. 2 musicians are ready to entertain you Friday night in downtown Statesville. The 500 Club presents live music on Saturday night with a performance by Andy Buckner. Andy combines honky-tonk, party anthems, and heartache healers for a memorable country performance. Golfing, food, beverages, and entertainment are all at the 500 Club in Statesville this weekend. The countdown is on for NASCAR's big Memorial Day showdown at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Friday, May 23rd features an ARCA and Truck Series doubleheader. Saturday, May 24th, the Xfinity Series competes in the BetMGM 300. Sunday, May 25th is NASCAR's longest race, the Coca-Cola 600. Listen to the Home Ad Show for your chance to win tickets to the 600. Visit Harrison's in Mooresville to register for a VIP package. And head to CharlotteMotorspeedway.com to purchase tickets and for camping information. NASCAR is back at Charlotte Motor Speedway on Memorial Day weekend. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
From market trends to retirement plans, Joshua Dobi has you covered. We're back with more Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial on WSIC. Local starts here.
Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you for hanging with us here. Fourth quarter of today's show. Got to give you the time countdown. You got 11 minutes, 55 seconds until we get to that 5 o'clock bell. I appreciate you sharing that time with us here. So we're talking about all things economic and financial. We've been all over the place today. I mean, we've gone everything from Warren Buffett to beer-infused charcoal. I mean, we do exciting stuff around here. I mean, that's just how we work. And we're talking sneakers now. Yeah, I'm looking at Dick's Sporting Goods announced buyout of Foot Locker, $2.4 billion deal. As I mentioned, a 90% premium in the offering price over the price of Foot Locker stock as of yesterday. So like I said, I hope you bought it a couple of days ago and you've been able to enjoy that ride. And for the rest of us, we will be happy for you as you're enjoying it as well. But going to be very interesting to see. They're going to actually let Foot Locker, Dick's Sporting Goods, is going to continue to allow Foot Locker to maintain the brand of Foot Locker and to operate as Foot Locker. So it's going to be interesting to see how that funnels under the Dick's Sporting Goods umbrella. But they saw it good to acquire it, and they did. And so big news in the merger and acquisition end of things. All right, let's keep going here. Got to give you some more food. We're in the fourth quarter. I know I'm going to get to the markets. Give me a minute here. I've been talking about them the whole time, but we'll certainly talk about the things that have happened here over the last a week or so. Krispy Kreme donuts. I feel like we talk a lot about Krispy Kreme on here. Well, that doesn't surprise me actually. Born and bred here, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So that's one of the reasons why. And B, I mean, it's donuts. Who doesn't like donuts? I mean, I just like saying the word. I mean, I also like saying the ticker symbol for Krispy Kreme. It is David Nancy Umbrella Tom, DNUT, donut. See if you say it very quickly, you can move the O out of there. Great stuff. Krispy Kreme donuts coming out with, and they do this. They are in collaborations regularly. They come across my time screen. I'm sure it's because, or my timeline, excuse me, that I'm sure it's because I probably say it out loud. Mother Siri's now picking up on it. And I didn't mean to say that, actually, because now probably all of your phones are waiting for you to say something if they happen to hear my voice right now. But what's also true, they're always in collaboration with something. And now they are coming out with a donut in honor of the 45th anniversary of the Pac-Man video game. Now, I will say that at first I was thinking, that's pretty cool. And then I was thinking, I remember when Pac-Man came out. I do. I remember when Pac-Man was first introduced to the world, the video game Pac-Man, not only in the arcade form, but then you were able to get it on your home video game console. I mean, it was a huge, huge, 45 years ago. Golly. Nothing like making you feel old there. Anyhow, I'm going to set that aside for a moment and say that Krispy Kreme, in honor of the 45th anniversary of the Pac-Man video game, has 3 Pac-Man donuts that are coming out. So that if you are familiar with Pac-Man, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But they have various icing concoctions that are going to look like Pac-Man and the ghosts and all that good kind of stuff. I thought that was pretty cool when looking at it. So the Krispy Kreme coming out with Pac-Man celebratory donuts. That'll be fun. But by the way, ticker symbol, again, coolest thing, donut. I mean, if you're going to be a donut company, that's pretty much the only ticker symbol you want. That's sitting out there. Let's keep going. Papa John's. Now this was one, and I guess this is a trend. We've talked about this previously in food segments here on Dollars and Cents. I guess this is a trend. Something out there called dirty soda, and I guess it's really. And I'm speaking out of ignorance here because you can hear me say, I guess that it's that you mix soda with various other syrups and flavors that maybe are not normal soda inclusions or not normally related to soda. Well, when I saw this one, I definitely thought that's not related to soda. Papa John's, ticker symbol PAPA, very appropriately so. Not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stock or the debt. Mountain Dew is the other collaborator. Mountain Dew, owned by PepsiCo. PepsiCo, publicly traded company, ticker symbol Paul Edward Paul, not a recommendation. Buy, sell, or hold the stock or the debt on that end of things. Papa John's, and so pizza company, right? I mean, Papa John's very well known in the pizza business, and Mountain Dew getting together to offer up a dirty soda where it's a mix of Mountain Dew and the pepperoncinis. So these are the peppers that are often on pizza, on Papa John's pizza. So again, peppers, that pepperoncinis, usually in like a vinegar-based brine of some kind, and Mountain Dew. All right, I looked at that. I mean, I couldn't get to it. I looked at it. I tried to figure it out, and it's kind of like the one we had here a couple of months ago, where we had pizza flavored cinnamon toast crunch cereal offered up by General Mills. Didn't see that one either. I thought they were trying too hard for the Super Bowl. Whenever we talked about that previously, I'm not sure what it is that Papa John's and Mountain Dew are trying to do here. I know Mountain Dew does some pretty interesting things flavor wise. They're kind of the cutting edge end of the world. Maybe that's what they're trying to do here, but this one was outside of my realm. Maybe it's just because of my age in looking at it. But anyhow, Papa John's and Mountain Dew getting together for their version of dirty soda. All right, let's pivot up. Let's look at markets here for a couple of minutes in the fourth quarter as we're winding into the end of today's show. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. It always is. I know I say that. It always is. But certainly interesting here as we received a word from negotiators who met in Switzerland between China and the U.S. that there was going to be a 90-day pause on the tariffs that each are threatening at this point to impose on each other. Still tariffs, just not at that same 100% plus level for several industries that were announced here just a couple of weeks ago. When that announcement came out for the 90-day pause, the market just shot up, almost parabolic. It was crazy. You had some things up 6, 8, 9, 10% and more in a day. I mean, that's crazy stuff. Although you did hear me just talk about Foot Locker being up 85% a day. That was due to an acquisition and a premium that was offered up by the acquirer. This was just due to an announcement. And you just had this huge surge in the market and just this almost euphoric kind of buying inside of the market as that announcement was made. Now, it's pared back a little bit, not a whole lot, but it pushed a couple, actually, of the most popular stock indices to about break even for the year. They had all been negative, as you've heard me say any number of times here over the last several weeks, that all of our major stock indices have been negative for a significant portion of the year so far. And it pushed the NASDAQ to about break even, the NASDAQ composite. S&P 500 index still slightly negative, or excuse me, the NASDAQ still negative. We got that in reverse. NASDAQ still negative for the year, but it got the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones Industrial Average to about break even for the year as that announcement was made. So I say that as a fact. I say that's what happened because of the announcement. And now here comes the word of caution. I know, here's the killjoy. This is not. I'm not the fun guy at the party, right? I'm always the one that says, well, you got to be careful. And that's what I'm going to say here. Be careful. Those kinds of moves are not natural. I know everybody who is invested in the things that have gone up that quickly here over the last couple of weeks, it's a good feeling. You love it, right? It's great to see that surge in that valuation is if you own anything that's moved that quickly in a positive direction here over the last couple of weeks. But it comes with a word of caution from someone like me. Folks, that's not natural. It just isn't. Did that much change over the course of the last week? That certain things, I mean, I'm looking at some of these big companies. They're up 10, 15% more over the last couple of days, almost a week now at this point. I mean, folks, again, if you own it, great. Very happy for you. That's wonderful. But you need to be cautious. That's not how companies, especially of size and significance, are structured to move. They're just not. It is the world in which we live at this point. It is the way in which the trading volumes are moving in this day and age, especially with the amount of machine trading and algorithmic trading that's out there. I get all of that. I understand all of that. I'm just saying that it's not necessarily true that the fortunes of these companies, meaning that how they're going to move from an earnings-based standpoint, necessarily changed by 10, 15, or 20% this past week. Just not. Now, you can make a counter argument, say, a lot of these stocks have been beat down, so they're really just recovering back to where they started the year. Yep, you can make that argument. Legitimate, especially on a technical basis. I won't disagree with you. The charts don't lie relative to that kind of movement. However, that doesn't make the move legitimate. It just means that they're reverting back to where they started basically to start the year. That, again, doesn't make the movement legitimate. It's just a statement of fact in reading the chart. That's why I'm offering that up as a word of caution to you. I'm not trying to prick the balloon. I know I said that earlier in the show. I'm not trying to prick the balloon or take the Kool-Aid away from the party. But I am saying that you just want to be mindful of the fact that as things appreciate that quickly or just flat out go up in price that quickly, they also have the possibility to do that in the short run on the other side. And that's the most important thing I want you to keep in mind here. Because we tend to lock in, right? I know, we think it's straight lines. We do it. We do it all the time when it comes to markets. Now that things are moving up again, all the so-called experts that I see on television, we're in a bull market. That's amazing. Because 2 weeks ago, you were telling me about how we were going into a recession. And I mean that literally. Go back and listen to my recording here from a couple of weeks ago. Those same folks were talking about how we were going to go into this horrible recession. Amazing. 2 weeks later, we're done. I guess no more threat of recession. Well, folks, you hear me say this all the time. I'm going to say it again. It bears repeating, especially as you're watching the market, taking a look at your 401ks, taking a look at your investment portfolios. I know it's going to sound a little bit cliched here, but it absolutely holds true. Strongly, strongly urge you never get too high on the high or too low on the lows. And recognize markets move in cycles. Say it again. Markets move in cycles. Some of those cycles are short-term. Some of those cycles are long-term. It's important to know the difference between the two. The other part of that that's also very true, it's a dangerous thing to start thinking in a straight line. You hear me say this all the time. We as the marketplace, buyers and sellers, we do it all the time. We do. When things are going up in value, we do. We implicitly think they're going to continue ad infinitum. We do the same thing when they're going down. That's why I said 2 weeks ago, the so-called experts were talking about how we're going into recession here inside of 90 days. Now, magically, we're not. I'm not saying that we are, but I don't think a whole lot has changed here over the last couple of weeks. And that's very, very important to keep in mind because there are always going to be positives and negatives in the market. Always. That does not change. That has never been absent from the market algorithm. What does change are folks' sentiments to it. And that's how you get a lot of the variability in the market. What I'm saying, folks, is make your decisions for the right reasons. Necessarily buying or selling something because it's going up in value or going down in value, that's not investing, that's guessing. And that can be very dangerous, especially in the short run when we have the kind of volatility that we have. Well, friends, I appreciate so much you hanging with us here on this week's version of Dollars and Cents. Always talking about things economic, financial, making sure that you're making good decisions on your end of things when it comes to your portfolio. I'm Joshua Dobi. I hope you'll tune in with us next week, Thursdays at 4 p.m., here on Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial on WSIC.
Serving you better than ever before. WSIC, Statesville, W290DK Mooresville,